Deep in the heart of our planet's crust, tucked away in the silty depths of the ocean floor, and hidden within the forgotten corners of dusty museum basements, there are objects that should not exist. We like to tell ourselves a very specific story about human history. It is a story of slow, steady progress. A climb from stone tools to steam engines, from flickering torches to fiber optics. We believe we are the pinnacle of intelligence, the first generation to master the world through complex math and advanced chemistry. But every so often, an archaeologist's shovel strikes something that shatters that narrative. We find artifacts that suggest our ancestors weren't just surviving. They were innovating in ways that we still can't replicate today. These are the anomalies that keep historians awake at night. These are the discoveries that suggest our timeline is missing several chapters, or perhaps an entire volume. We aren't just looking at old rocks and broken pottery anymore. We are looking at the fingerprints of a lost version of humanity. One of the most haunting examples of this lost sophistication was found in 1971 in the Hunan province of China. Workers digging an air raid shelter stumbled upon a massive tomb that would eventually change everything we thought we knew about the limits of ancient preservation. Inside was the body of Xin Zhui, the Marquise of Dai, a woman who had died in 163 BC. Now, when we find bodies that are 2,000 years old, they are typically bones or leathery dried-out husks. But the Lady of Dai was different. When her casket was opened, the scientists were horrified and amazed. Her skin was still soft and moist to the touch. Her joints were flexible. You could move her arms and legs as if she had just fallen asleep. She still had her own hair, her eyelashes, and even the tiny ridges of her fingerprints were perfectly intact. Upon performing an autopsy, an incredible feat for a 2,000-year-old corpse, doctors found her internal organs were complete. They even found 138 melon seeds in her stomach, allowing them to determine her last meal. She was preserved in a mysterious, slightly acidic yellowish liquid that turned colorless the moment it hit the oxygen of the modern world. To this day, we cannot replicate that fluid. We have all the chemicals of the 21st century at our disposal, yet we cannot figure out how a Han Dynasty chemist created a fountain of youth for the dead that outperformed every modern embalming technique known to man. It suggests a mastery of chemistry that was simply supposed to be impossible for that era. While the Lady of Dai represents a biological mystery, the depths of the Mediterranean Sea gave us a mechanical one that is perhaps even more chilling. In 1901, divers exploring a Roman shipwreck near the island of Antikythera recovered a lump of green, corroded bronze. For decades, it sat in a museum, dismissed as a piece of scrap metal. It wasn't until modern X-ray and CT scanning technology were applied to it that the world realized what it actually was. The Antikythera mechanism. Inside this small box were over 30 intricate hand-cut bronze gears, all working in perfect unison. It was an analog computer designed to track the positions of the sun, the phases of the moon, and the movements of the 5 planets known to the Greeks. It could predict eclipses with down-to-the-minute accuracy, and even featured a dial to track the 4-year cycle of the ancient Olympic Games. The level of mathematical precision required to build this device is staggering. Historians were forced to admit that this level of mechanical engineering didn't reappear in the world until the 14th century, meaning this technology was lost for 1,500 years. If the Greeks were building computers in 100 BC, why did the trail go cold? Imagine where humanity would be today if that technology hadn't vanished. We might have reached the moon by the year 1000. The Earth doesn't just hide machines. It hides languages that we are now too civilized to hear. On the remote, wind-swept shores of Easter Island, famous for its giant stone moai heads, lies another mystery called the Rongorongo script. These are wooden tablets covered in strange, beautiful glyphs, humanoids, animals, and plants. Unlike almost every other language on Earth, Rongorongo doesn't seem to be influenced by any neighboring culture. It appeared out of nowhere in total isolation. By the time Europeans arrived and realized the importance of the tablets, the local population had been so devastated by disease and raids that the last people who could read the script were gone. Today, we have these tablets. We have our best AI decoders, and we have our world-class linguists, and yet, not a single word has been translated. It is a silent library. We are looking directly at the history, the poetry, and the laws of an entire civilization. But the door is locked, and we've lost the key. It serves as a grim reminder that human knowledge is fragile. We aren't just moving forward, we are constantly losing pieces of ourselves along the way. Sometimes, the discoveries are so strange, they make us question our very perception of reality, like the Voynich manuscript. This is a 240-page book dated to the early 15th century. It is written in an elegant, flowing script that looks like a real language, but it matches nothing ever seen in human history. It's accompanied by bizarre illustrations, plants that do not exist in any botanical record, strange zodiac signs that don't match the constellations, and drawings of women bathing in green pools connected by a series of complex intestinal-looking pipes. For 100 years, the world's greatest codebreakers, the men and women who cracked the Nazi Enigma code, have tried to read it. They have all failed. Some say it's a sophisticated hoax, but the sheer volume of the work and the consistency of the grammar suggest otherwise. It feels like a textbook from a parallel dimension, a glimpse into a version of Earth where biology and chemistry took a completely different turn. Even more confrontational to our history books are the artifacts that suggest we mastered energy long before we should have. In the late 1930s, a clay jar was found in Kujut Rabu near Baghdad. Inside this jar was a copper cylinder and an iron rod. On the surface, it's a simple pot. But when you fill it with an electrolyte, something as simple as lemon juice or vinegar, it produces an electric current. This is the Baghdad battery. While mainstream archaeologists argue these were merely storage jars for scrolls, replicas have proven they work perfectly as galvanic cells. If the people of Mesopotamia were using electricity 2,000 years ago, what were they using it for? Some suggest electroplating gold onto silver, while others have more out-there theories about lighting the interior of dark temples. The problem isn't that the device doesn't work, it's that we don't want to believe they had it. It forces us to ask how many other modern inventions were already sitting in the dirt of the ancient world. Then there are the Sansingdui masks, unearthed in China's Sichuan province. These massive bronze heads, dating back 3,000 years, possess features that are utterly alien to the region. Bulging eyes, pointed ears, and expressions that look more like science fiction than ancient history. The civilization that created them, the Shu, left no written records. They appeared with advanced bronze casting technology that surpassed their neighbors, created these haunting icons, and then vanished. It's as if a highly advanced group of people dropped into history, left a pile of impossible art, and walked back into the shadows. What do we do with these pieces of the puzzle that don't fit the picture? We often view history as a straight line moving upward toward us, a steady climb from ignorance to enlightenment. But these discoveries suggest that history is circular, or perhaps a series of peaks and valleys. Knowledge is gained, and then, through war, cataclysm, or simple neglect, it is burned away. We aren't necessarily the first advanced people to walk this earth. We are simply the latest. These artifacts, the fresh-faced mummy, the bronze computer, the unreadable book, and the ancient battery, are more than just curiosities. They are cracks in the wall of our perceived reality. They remind us that the human story is much older, much weirder, and much more brilliant than we give it credit for. We look back at the people of the past and see primitive ancestors, but these discoveries prove they were thinkers, dreamers, and engineers who reached heights we are only just beginning to understand. Next time you look at a piece of ancient history, don't just ask what they were doing. Ask what they knew that we have forgotten. Because in the end, the strangest discovery isn't what we found in the ground. It's how much of our own greatness we've managed to lose.